Hey ladies and gents, we are back with some Avorion and we are talking about building and designing stations. Now you've seen this one multiple times. This is my go-to design for building a station or a mine or whatever. I'm so simplistic when it comes to this kind of stuff. Now however, you don't have to be this simplistic when you're designing stuff because I rely mostly on asteroids to build my stations just because of the sheer amount of HP that you get with the asteroid, the stone, right? We're at 2.4 million just on this little bit of chunk of stone we got here. Very simplistic when I build design or when I build stations and all that kind of stuff, and I use this multiple times during the game. Now, how do you get asteroids if you haven't claimed one in game, or if you're going to build your first station? Use creative. You can go into creative here. Creative doesn't cost you any money and it doesn't cost you any material. So you can build a ship, crew it, go around, claim a mine, turn it into a mine, and then when you go to once you claim the mine or the asteroid, then you can simply go to the save design over here and just save it right here. There's a save current design, and you can save the asteroid directly to this, and you're able to manipulate it wherever you're at, or in the game that you are playing currently from the creative universe. So that's some of the way to do it. Now, building your own design for something like this, like I said, you don't have to use the rock. I've collected a crap ton of stations from ones that I've boarded, and you can do this in creative too because it doesn't cost you anything. So you can go around, capture a bunch of stations, save it to your save designs, and do what you want to from there. And then that's kind of what I do here for the most part. If you were going to, say for example, want to build a station, this one's huge, but you can apply it here to this design right here. This is one I captured in my game. But there's a simple way to, use the ships that you have in the game. If you don't feel like you're comfortable enough making, cool designs or what you think is cool designs and all that kind of stuff, I generally, a lot of times I just copy and paste off of stuff I've captured. Especially since the newer generated ships are a lot cooler looking than the old style. I mean, here's for example is the older style stations that we used to get. Yeah, that was it. That was the old style stations. They were usually just square blocks. However, the newer styles have quite a bit more character to them. They're rounder, they have colors, they have all kinds of stuff like that. But there is a way to do this. So you can use that, for example, the rings here if you want to use the rings, or if you want to use the framework here for, building a shipyard or whatever. You can use these designs in your designs. I even do it for example, where can I find it here? This is my current one I'm working on right now, which is 4 asteroids put together with a chunk of something I copied off another ship. And then I added some, for this is going to be a shipyard or whatever. I'm dicking around with what I'm going to do here. But yeah, I did this in creative here, and then I'll transfer it into my actual game. But most of the pieces on this ship, other than actually everything on this ship, other than a couple of pieces in the middle, was something that I got off of a captured ship or a captured station. And I'm just using them because, it's easier to design, it's quicker this way than having to do it from scratch. Not saying, of course, doing it not from scratch is not the way to do it. But, for time-wise, just to make something that's relatively cool, looks decent, other than the fact that you are I have way too much stuff right here. That's why my frames rating's dropping out here. But for example, this ship here was a captured ship, and I just added my own style to it. For the most part, everything about this ship works really well, except for most of the captured ships in game don't have enough energy, so you have to add energy and all that kind of stuff. But I did my own little added my own little quirks to it, and it turned out pretty decent. But yeah, so I'm using in-game stuff to build this stuff. Same way with stations, we are doing that. So what the easiest way to do it a lot of times is just to jump into the build. And for example, if you want a piece, use this piece down here, we're just going to use, we'll select a block. We can select the entire thing, or we can use a rectangle, whatever works. And we're just going to cut or copy it. Control C and you copy it. Now you have a couple different options here. You can take it and take it over to the Save Designs, and you can save it to your template from here. And then when you go to your whatever you're working on, you can just Control Copy or Control V, and you can bring it back up on your other station that you're working on. So you can take this piece right here, take it to a different station, and then just add on to it. However, there's also a different option. You can use it like a big, huge, for example, this was a little ridiculous. You didn't need one this big. I was thinking I was going to put more on there for this video, but this is just a simple big flat iron plate, 1,000 by 1,000 I think is what it is. And as I copy my stuff from other stations, I just slap it on here, and then as I'm building, I can just take pieces off of here. For example, this is all storage containers right here, and if I want to, for example, take this over here to my other design, I'll just grab it, Control Copy, and then when I go to my other, let's say if I want to put it on that one here, I've already got a couple of them. We're just going to Control V, and we bring it up, and then I can attach it to this station. These are all, of course, all cargo pods. That's a little ridiculous. It's way bigger than what it needs to be, but you can take, you can use your regular design here or your regular usual and make them bigger and smaller however you want to, and just add it to the station. A little bit more flavor, right here. These are all controlled copy parts from other stations that I've added on the outside of it just for this video. But yeah, if you want to build a flight deck, using pieces off that, great way to do it. If once again you're not comfortable building your own stuff, or you don't want to spend the time building complicated shapes and all that kind of stuff, and you can do it this way. Of course, I like to use the asteroids because the asteroids are super easy to. You just delete what you want off of them. You can change the shape of them. Here I'm just deleting pieces off of it, making flatter pieces. I can go over to the iron or the stone over here, and of course I can use just regular rich stone, and I can add pieces to it as I want. Easy way to do it. Actual station wise, we've talked about this before in the different videos. Depending on, so we're at 6 million hull right here, and this is not really that terrible big of a station, but for the most part, when you're doing this, I tend to, what are you looking for, like crew? Okay, crew can be anything from the one I typically use only has 12 crew members. So you can make these stations have tens of thousands of crew members depending how big you want it. But you also got to remember when you're building these stations or mines, this could be a mine too, of course. Whatever you want to do, because you can make a mine look like, it doesn't have to look like an asteroid. It can look like this. You just have to apply the design to it, and the mine will still produce, whether it looks like an asteroid or doesn't look like an asteroid. It'll still produce, even if it looks like a station. But of course, one of the things you have to look for is this one's got a huge amount of cargo hold because I added all this stuff. But for the most part, depending on once again, this comes down to supply and demand. I don't usually put much more than 12,000 on because as long as the NPCs are taking it, I don't need that much cargo. Now, cargo is also dependent on the material that you're using. For example, like if you're producing a mining robot, that'll take five cargo area, where gold was 0.5 or 1. So you're going to have to depend your size of your storage depending on what size of material you're producing and all that kind of stuff. And this also comes down to the fact of supply and demand. If you have something that's taking a lot of material, you don't need a real big cargo area. It's something you have to play around with as you're playing and that kind of stuff. The other thing about stations is to remember is to keep the if you're trying to keep down the crew costs, instead of using, for example, generators, and neonite generators, these use up a fair amount of crew. So that jet generator adds more crew. Now, if I don't want to build a big enough station where I'm going to require a lot of crew, your other option, of course, is to use as much neonite solar panels as possible. These are actually pretty decent. They require almost no maintenance. So if you're trying to power this thing, the solar panels are usually better, unless, of course, you're putting on a bunch of shields and all that kind of stuff. Even with the, we're going to lose quite a bit with that. But you can power this mine or a station with just solar panels, and it's going to bring down your number of crew members because it doesn't require. And that's the other thing I love about using using this massive rock is that stone doesn't require maintenance. Therefore, it keeps my costs down when I'm on the station wise. So just a couple different things to remember, and once again, it's just like any other ship. You can add shields to it if you think you're going to need shields, or if you can just kind of get away with just the fact that you have 6 million hull. Everything you add to this thing that's not the iron rock is going to cost you crew, material, and money. So that's why I tend to keep the simplistic part of it. That's why I tend to keep more to the rock designs than anything. This is a personal choice. So I'm just giving you guys a little bit of options here, what you guys can do if you feel like you need to, you want to do a little bit more customized designs when you're building your stations. If you haven't got to the part where you're capturing stations, come into creative, do a bunch of little stuff around the creative, capture a couple small stations, and start from there. Because everything in this creative is free, so it doesn't cost you material, it doesn't cost you money, and you can start with that stuff. Don't make this big palette like I did. I got a little carried away here. I didn't realize it was going to slow me down that much with this much junk right in this area. It's slowing my frame rates down by quite a bit. So with that said, guys, thanks for watching. Like I said, use the in-game stuff as much as you can. Like I said, this gives you a little bit of a, if you're not really confident with the building part, this is the way to go. You're going to get some unique stations out of it with using the in-game stuff. So with that said, guys, thanks for watching, and you guys have a good night.